Victoria Bennett sat in her small office at the Grand Harbor Resort, staring at the elegant wedding invitation for the 100th time. Her sister Jessica's wedding was in 3 days, and every time she thought about attending alone, her stomach twisted into knots. It was not just any wedding. It was the social event of the season, where her entire family and half of the city's elite would gather to celebrate. More importantly, her ex-boyfriend Derek Mitchell would be there with his new girlfriend, probably showing off his family's wealth and success. A sister's wedding blues. The past 6 months had been difficult for Victoria. After breaking up with Derek, she had thrown herself into work at the resort, coordinating events and managing guest experiences. She had convinced herself she was fine, that she did not need anyone. But the thought of facing her mother's disappointed looks and Derek's smug smile made her feel small and defeated. Her mother had always favored Derek, praising his family connections and his promising career in real estate. When Victoria had ended things because of his controlling behavior and constant criticism, her mother had blamed her for letting go of such a good match. The empty +1 Victoria's phone buzzed with another text from her sister. "Did you RSVP yet? Mom keeps asking about your +1. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on a simple lie. "Yes, bringing someone. We'll confirm details soon." The moment she sent it, guilt washed over her. She had always been honest, but the thought of admitting she would be attending alone felt like admitting defeat. Her family would see it as proof that she had made a mistake leaving Derek. They would spend the entire evening trying to set her up with random eligible bachelors or worse, pitying her. An unexpected encounter at 11 that night. Victoria was doing her final walkthrough of the resort's grand ballroom, checking preparations for an upcoming corporate event. The space was dimly lit, with only emergency lights casting long shadows across the polished marble floor. She heard footsteps and turned to find Nathan, one of the night security guards, making his rounds. She had seen him around for the past few months, but had never really paid attention. He was always polite, keeping to himself, dressed in the standard dark uniform. The guard with kind eyes, Nathan, stopped when he saw her, his hand moving instinctively to his radio. "Working late again, Miss Bennett?" His voice was warm, with an undertone of genuine concern that surprised her. Victoria managed a weak smile. "Just making sure everything is perfect for Friday's event." He walked closer, and she noticed things she had not observed before. He stood tall with confident posture, and his eyes held an intelligence that seemed unusual for someone in his position. His hands, though he wore work gloves, moved with careful precision. "Are you all right? You seem troubled?" he asked, and something about his gentle tone broke through her carefully maintained composure. A moment of weakness. Before she could stop herself, the words tumbled out. "My sister is getting married in 3 days. I told my family I have a date, but I do not. My ex-boyfriend will be there with his new girlfriend, and my mother will spend the entire night reminding me of what I gave up." She laughed bitterly. "I know it sounds ridiculous." Nathan studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "It does not sound ridiculous. It sounds like you care about your family's opinion even when you wish you did not." His understanding caught her off guard. Most people would have offered empty reassurances or changed the subject. The outrageous idea, an idea formed in her mind, crazy and desperate. Before she could talk herself out of it, she blurted out the question. "Would you consider being my date? Just for one evening. I will pay you $1,000. You would just need to dress nicely, make small talk, and pretend we are together. I know it is completely inappropriate to ask, but I am desperate." She held her breath, expecting him to refuse or worse, report her to management for inappropriate behavior. Instead, Nathan's lips curved into a slight smile. $1,000 to spend an evening at a wedding? That seems quite generous. The surprising agreement Victoria felt hope flutter in her chest. "So you will do it?" He crossed his arms, considering. "On one condition. You tell me the real reason why this matters so much. It is not just about your ex-boyfriend, is it?" She hesitated, then decided honesty was the least she owed someone willing to help her. "My mother has always made me feel like I was not good enough. Derek came from money and status. When I left him because he was controlling and dismissive, she acted like I had thrown away my only chance at a good life. This wedding is her opportunity to prove she was right." Nathan nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. All right, I will help you. But keep your money. Just promise me one thing. What? Be yourself at this wedding. Do not let anyone make you feel less than you are. An unexpected alliance. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes at his words. Deal. They exchanged phone numbers, and Nathan promised to meet her 2 days before the wedding to discuss details and get properly fitted. As he walked away to continue his rounds, Victoria found herself curious about the man who had just agreed to her strange request. There was something about him, the way he spoke, his posture, his perceptiveness, that did not quite fit with his job as a security guard. But she pushed the thought aside. She had found a solution to her problem, and that was all that mattered. What she did not know was that Nathan Cole was actually Nathaniel Westbrook, the 32-year-old billionaire who owned the entire Grand Harbor resort chain. For the past 6 months, he had been working undercover in various positions at his properties, wanting to understand his business and employees from the ground level. And Victoria Bennett, with her kindness to staff and her dedication to her work, had caught his attention long before she had asked for his help. Victoria stood outside the luxury boutique, checking her watch for the 3rd time. Nathan had texted her to meet him here to coordinate their outfits for the wedding, but she felt nervous about the whole arrangement. When a sleek black car pulled up and Nathan stepped out, her breath caught in her throat. Gone was the security guard in his uniform. The man walking toward her wore tailored charcoal slacks and a crisp white shirt that highlighted his broad shoulders. His dark hair was styled perfectly, and without the security cap, she could see his face clearly. He was strikingly handsome, with sharp features and warm hazel eyes that seemed to notice everything. Questions without answers. "You look different," Victoria said, trying to keep her voice steady. Nathan smiled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "So do you. Your hair is down. It suits you." They entered the boutique, where a sales associate immediately approached Nathan with familiarity. "Mr. Cole, wonderful to see you again. We have the selections you requested ready in the private viewing room." Victoria glanced at Nathan with surprise. "You have been here before?" He shrugged casually. "Once or twice. I believe in being prepared." But the ease with which he moved through the upscale store, the deference shown by the staff, and the private viewing room all suggested someone far more familiar with luxury than a security guard should be. The perfect fit Nathan tried on several suits, each one fitting him as though custom-made. When he emerged in a deep navy suit with subtle pinstripes, Victoria forgot to breathe. He looked like he had stepped off the cover of a business magazine. The suit probably cost more than she made in 2 months. "How can you afford this?" she asked quietly, genuine confusion in her voice. Nathan adjusted his cuffs, avoiding her eyes. "I have some savings. Besides, you can return it after the wedding if you keep the tags on." But something in his tone suggested he had no intention of returning anything. Victoria selected an elegant burgundy dress that complemented his suit, and they made plans to meet at the wedding venue. The grand arrival Jessica's wedding was held at the Rosewood Estate, a historic mansion with manicured gardens and a ballroom that could host 300 guests. Victoria arrived early, her stomach in knots. She had barely finished greeting her sister when her mother, Catherine, descended upon her with a critical eye. "Victoria, finally. Where is this mysterious date of yours?" Her mother's tone suggested she had never believed Victoria would actually bring someone. Before Victoria could respond, Nathan appeared at her side, looking every bit the sophisticated gentleman. "You must be Mrs. Bennett," he said smoothly, taking Catherine's hand with old-fashioned courtesy. "I am Nathan. I apologize for keeping your daughter waiting. Traffic from the office was terrible." Catherine's expression shifted from skepticism to interest. "The office? What do you do, Nathan?" He smiled modestly. "I work in hospitality management, currently overseeing operations at several resort properties." It was technically true, though. It left out the crucial detail that he owned those properties. Victoria watched in amazement as Nathan charmed her mother with knowledgeable conversation about business and travel. Within minutes, Catherine was smiling warmly, a stark contrast to her usual disapproving demeanor. As they moved into the ceremony, Victoria whispered, "You are good at this." Nathan glanced at her, something unreadable in his eyes. I have had practice navigating difficult social situations. The ceremony and doubts during the ceremony, Nathan sat beside Victoria, his presence steady and reassuring. When Jessica and her groom exchanged vows, Victoria felt unexpected emotion well up. She had been so focused on her own anxiety about attending that she had not fully appreciated her sister's happiness. Nathan quietly handed her his handkerchief, and she accepted it gratefully. At the reception, they were seated at a table with several of Victoria's cousins and family friends. Nathan engaged them all with ease, discussing everything from current events to wine selections. His knowledge seemed encyclopedic, and Victoria found herself watching him with growing suspicion mixed with attraction. The ex-boyfriend, Derek Mitchell, approached their table during cocktail hour, his girlfriend Amber clinging to his arm. "Victoria," he said with forced cheerfulness, "you look well. And who is this?" Nathan stood, extending his hand with cool politeness. "Nathan Cole. You must be Derek. Victoria has mentioned you." The slight emphasis on how Victoria had mentioned him made Derek's smile falter. Nathan's handshake was firm, his posture radiating quiet confidence that made Derek's usual swagger seem hollow by comparison. "So what do you do, Nathan?" Derek asked, his tone attempting superiority. Nathan smiled. "I ensure people have memorable experiences in luxury hospitality." Derek smirked. "So you are in customer service? Event planning, like Victoria?" The condescension in his voice was clear. Standing her ground. Before Nathan could respond, Victoria spoke up, her voice steady. "Nathan manages resort operations. He oversees entire properties. Unlike some people who inherit their positions, he has actually earned his success." Derek's face flushed red. "At least I do not have to work at all. My family has real wealth." Nathan's expression remained calm, but Victoria noticed his jaw tighten slightly. "Real wealth is not measured by what your family has, but by what you build yourself. A man who defines himself by his inheritance alone usually has little else to offer." The nearby guests had gone quiet, watching the exchange. Amber tugged at Derek's arm nervously, and after a moment he stalked away with a muttered excuse. A dance to remember when the band began playing, Nathan offered Victoria his hand. "Dance with me?" On the floor, he held her with perfect form, guiding her through the waltz with practiced skill. Victoria looked up at him, confusion and curiosity warring in her mind. "Where did you learn to dance like this? Security guard training does not usually include ballroom dancing." Nathan's expression grew guarded. "My mother insisted I learn when I was young. She believed certain skills were essential." "Your mother sounds like she came from a formal background," Victoria pressed gently. "She did," Nathan admitted quietly. "She grew up with certain expectations about propriety and education. Even when circumstances changed, she maintained those standards." There was sadness in his voice that made Victoria want to understand him better. The growing connection as. The evening progressed, Victoria found herself genuinely enjoying Nathan's company, forgetting that this was supposed to be a performance. He made her laugh with dry observations about the other guests. He listened intently. When she spoke about her dreams of eventually starting her own event planning business, he defended her effortlessly when family members made passive-aggressive comments. During dinner, her mother actually complimented her choice in partner, something Victoria could not remember happening before. "You have found a good man, dear," Catherine said approvingly. "Perhaps I was too quick to judge your decision about Derek." Victoria smiled, but her heart ached slightly. If only her mother knew this was all pretend. Suspicions deepening. Later, while Nathan was getting drinks, Victoria's cousin Rachel leaned over conspiratorially. "Where did you find him? He is gorgeous and clearly has money. Did you see his watch? That is a Patek Philippe. Those start at $50,000. Victoria's head spun. She had not noticed the watch. When Nathan returned, she studied him more carefully. His shoes were handmade Italian leather. His cufflinks were platinum with small diamonds. Even the way he moved spoke of someone accustomed to wealth and privilege. During a quiet moment on the terrace, she finally confronted him directly. "Who are you really, Nathan? You are not just a security guard. Everything about you tonight, the way you handle yourself, your knowledge, your clothes." She gestured to his watch. "That costs more than most people's cars." A moment of truth. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the garden lights. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft but honest. "You are right. I am not what I seem. But I am also not ready to explain everything tonight. What I can tell you is this. Everything I have said to you has been true. I do work at the resort. I did want to help you. And spending this evening with you has been the most genuine connection I have had with anyone in a very long time." Victoria's heart raced. "So you have been lying to me?" "Not lying," he said carefully. "Just not telling you everything, but I promise. When the time is right, I will explain it all. Will you trust me until then?" She should have been angry. She should have walked away. But something in his eyes, vulnerability mixed with hope, made her nod slowly. An unexpected kiss as. The evening wound down and guests began to depart. Nathan walked Victoria to her car. "Thank you," she said softly, "for tonight. For everything. You made this bearable. More than bearable." Nathan stepped closer, his hand gently cupping her cheek. "Victoria, tonight was not just a favor. This, us, it felt real to me. Did it feel real to you?" She nodded, unable to speak. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. When his lips met hers, the kiss was tender and filled with unspoken promise. When they finally separated, Victoria felt breathless and confused. What happens now? Nathan smiled, though sadness touched his eyes. "Now I tell you the truth. All of it. Meet me tomorrow at the resort, noon, at the executive offices on the top floor." Victoria frowned. "The top floor? That is the owner's private area. Security does not even go up there." "Just trust me one more time," he said. "Please." As she drove home that night, Victoria's mind raced with possibilities, none of which prepared her for what she would discover the next day. Victoria stood in the marble lobby of Grand Harbor Resort at exactly noon, her palms sweating despite the air conditioning. She had barely slept, replaying every conversation with Nathan, analyzing every detail she had missed. The elegant receptionist smiled at her approach. "Miss Bennett, Mr. Westbrook is expecting you. Please take the private elevator on the right." The name hit her like a physical blow. Westbrook, Nathaniel Westbrook, the billionaire owner of the Grand Harbor Resort chain and half a dozen other luxury properties across the country. Her stomach dropped as pieces fell into place with crushing clarity. Nathan Cole was Nathaniel Westbrook, the man she had hired as her fake date. The security guard she had felt sorry for was actually her ultimate boss and one of the wealthiest men in the region. The penthouse office. The elevator opened directly into a stunning penthouse office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. The space was decorated with understated elegance, expensive but not ostentatious. Nathan stood by the windows, no longer in his security uniform, but wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. He turned when he heard the elevator, and the expression on his face was a mixture of apprehension and hope. "Victoria," he began, but she held up her hand to stop him. Her voice shook with barely controlled emotion. "You are Nathaniel Westbrook. You own this resort. You own the entire chain. I asked my boss to pretend to be my boyfriend. I offered to pay a billionaire $1,000. She laughed bitterly, humiliation burning through her. The explanation, Nathan took a step forward, then stopped when he saw her tense. "Please let me explain. I know you must feel betrayed, but there are reasons I did not tell you immediately." "Reasons!" Victoria's voice rose. "You let me make a complete fool of myself. You watched me worry about affording a dress, about impressing my family. All while you were probably laughing at the pathetic event coordinator who had no idea who you were. I was never laughing at you, Nathan said firmly, pain evident in his eyes. Never. If anything, I was falling for you precisely because you did not know who I was. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How exhausting it becomes, never knowing if people see you or just your bank account. His honesty caught her off guard, but anger still simmered beneath her confusion. The undercover truth Nathan moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. 6 months ago, I started working undercover in different positions at my properties. Security, housekeeping, maintenance, food service. I wanted to understand my business from the perspective of the people who make it work. He handed her the folder. Inside were reports, observations, notes about employee concerns, and operational improvements. I have learned more in these 6 months than in 5 years of quarterly reports and management meetings. Victoria scanned the documents, seeing detailed notes about working conditions, staff morale, and guest experiences. There were recommendations for pay increases, better benefits, improved training programs. This is why you were working as a guard? To spy on your employees? He shook his head. Not to spy, to learn. To see what I could not see from up here in this office. A different perspective. Victoria sat down heavily in one of the leather chairs, her anger beginning to mix with reluctant understanding. When you started working nights, I noticed you immediately, Nathan continued quietly. Not because you were beautiful, though you are, but because of how you treated everyone. You learned the names of the cleaning staff. You stayed late to help the junior coordinators when they were overwhelmed. You defended a housekeeper when a guest was rude to her. He sat across from her, leaning forward earnestly. That night when you asked for my help, I could have said no. I could have revealed who I was. But I saw an opportunity to spend time with you as just Nathan, not as the boss or the billionaire. I wanted to know if what I felt watching you work could become something more. Victoria's hands trembled as she processed his words. The raw honesty. So the wedding was what? Research? Victoria asked, her voice softer but still guarded. Nathan met her eyes directly. The wedding was me falling completely in love with you, every moment we spent together, every conversation, every laugh. That was real, Victoria, the most real thing in my life. He stood, moving to the window. I have had relationships before. Women who wanted the lifestyle, the status, the money. They loved Nathaniel Westbrook, the billionaire. They did not love Nathan, the person who gets anxious at large parties, or who reads poetry before bed, or who sometimes doubts whether he deserves any of this success. Victoria felt her heart crack at the vulnerability in his voice. But you lied to me, she whispered. By omission, yes, he acknowledged, turning back to her. And I will regret that for the rest of my life if it costs me you. But I never lied about my feelings. I never pretended to care when I did not. The choice Victoria stood, needing to move, to think. She walked to the windows, looking out at the resort below. Staff members moved about their duties. Guests lounged by the pool, everything continuing normally while her world had turned upside down. What happens now? She asked quietly. That depends on you, Nathan said, coming to stand beside her but not touching her. I can offer you whatever you want. A promotion, a transfer to another property if working here is uncomfortable, a glowing recommendation for any position elsewhere. Or, and his voice dropped to something almost pleading, you can give us a chance, the real us with no secrets between us. Victoria turned to look at him, really look at him. She saw the same man who had handed her his handkerchief during the ceremony, who had defended her to Derek, who had kissed her with such tenderness. Confronting feelings, I am terrified, she admitted honestly, of what people will think, of whether this is real, of whether I am just another employee who fell for the boss. Nathan reached out slowly, giving her time to step away. When she did not, he took her hands in his. Then let me tell you what I know to be true. I know that you are brilliant at your job and earned every bit of your success through hard work. I know that your compassion and integrity make you stand out in any room. I know that when you smile at me, I forget about everything else. And I know that I want to build something real with you, something that has nothing to do with money or positions or what anyone else thinks. He squeezed her hands gently. But I also know I hurt you by keeping this secret. So if you need time, if you need space, I will give you that. I will wait as long as it takes. The decision Victoria felt tears slip down her cheeks. Part of her wanted to run, to protect herself from the complexity and potential pain. But another part, The part that had felt truly seen for the first time in years wanted to take the risk. "You promise no more secrets?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No more secrets," Nathan vowed. "About anything?" She took a shaky breath. "Then I want to try. Not because you are Nathaniel Westbrook or because you own this resort, but because when I am with Nathan, I feel like the best version of myself." His face transformed with joy and relief. He pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "I will spend every day proving you made the right choice," he murmured against her hair. New beginnings. Over the following weeks, they navigated their new relationship carefully. Nathan introduced Victoria to his world gradually, but he also continued his undercover work, now with her as his confidant. Together, they implemented changes that improved conditions for staff while maintaining the resort's excellence. Victoria's mother was initially shocked by the revelation, but quickly became insufferably proud, though Victoria made it clear she would not tolerate any status-focused behavior. Jessica called weekly, delighted that her wedding had sparked such an unexpected romance. Derek sent a passive-aggressive message of congratulations that they both ignored with satisfaction. The real connection. 3 months later, Nathan and Victoria stood on the resort's private beach at sunset. He had just returned from a business trip, and she had missed him with an intensity that surprised her. "This is what I wanted to show you," he said, gesturing to where a small group of employees were having a barbecue, their children playing in the sand. "Benefits improvements you suggested? Family beach access twice a month. Look at their faces." Victoria leaned against him, warmth spreading through her chest. "It matters," she agreed. "Making people's lives better. It matters more than profits. That is why I love you," Nathan said softly, turning her to face him. "Because you understand that success means nothing if it does not lift others up too." The Promise A's. The sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. Victoria realized that her desperate request to a security guard had led her to something far more valuable than saving face at a wedding. It had led her to a partner who saw her true worth, who shared her values, and who loved her for exactly who she was. Nathan kissed her forehead gently. "No regrets about that night? About asking a random security guard to be your fake date?" Victoria smiled against his chest. "Not a single one. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes," she thought as they walked hand in hand back toward the resort, "the person who seems ordinary on the surface is exactly the extraordinary you have been searching for all along." The stars began to appear overhead, and Victoria knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together with honesty, respect, and the kind of love that grows from truly knowing and accepting each other completely. The end.